Happy Monday, gamers. We are back with another modern gameplay episode for you. This time, Jeskai Twin versus Grixis Food. Now, these are two decks, at least the Twin deck we featured on the channel a couple of times before. It's basically a Jeskai control list, and it's designed and set up to present as if it was just a Jeskai control list, but also having the sneaky surprise, I also have Twin to close out the game and win the game there. So it's going to be a little bit of a grindy matchup in regard to what we're seeing here for both the decks. On the other side, it's Grixis Food, which there have been some food-based decks that have been featured on the channel multiple times over, but why would you run the Grixis version as opposed to like a Jun version or things like that? And what's the goal of a Grixis Food list? Well, a big goal that you're trying to do is to death by 1,000 cuts, take advantage of discarding cards, utilizing the Underworld Cookbook to be able to generate food, being able to sit here and get Asmo out. You can also be able to utilize cards like the Cauldron Familiar and be able to do some sacrificing with our Witch's Oven and do some little bit of, drain and gain type effects. But the big reason is for this Psychic Frog here. Because you have things that will take advantage of you discarding effects, having a frog that can just continually get us card advantage is going to be very important here. So getting the frog out to help out with our Grixis Food ideas, you start to really get an idea of what the deck is trying to do. But it's a little bit of a tight one within the mana base because you are running Urza Sagas and stuff like that, because if you're running a food-based list, you're going to need to run those to get, Underworld Cookbook or get access to, some of the utility artifacts that you're going to be running in the list. So that is one of the things to kind of keep in mind if you're considering building up a food list. But if you're watching and you're wondering about different deck lists, we do have our Moxfield lists that are available in the description, so you can see any of the decks that we have talked about on camera, including any of the commander decks that we pilot when we are joining up and joining different players' streams. We, of course, will be doing some commander streams in the spring for people, help raise money for some awesome charities. But until then, you guys can be able to watch us if we are playing Commander over guesting on people's streams. If you're wondering where can you find out information about when we're going live for those, that's going to be, of course, on our Blue Sky stuff, which is basically the new version of Twitter that is where basically all of the Magic content creators have started to migrate over. And again, all the links and all the stuff that we're talking about are in the description. But there's the Witch's Oven going to be coming out here. So we're in this debate of what should we counter. And then there's the kitty cat coming out. So would you like to counterspell my Cauldron Familiar? No, we don't really care. I mean, if we do counter it, that forces, the opponent into, basically delaying a little bit about when they can activate the Cauldron Familiar.
Don't Wrath of the Skies. You can play any other sweeper besides that one.
He says, hey, please don't Wrath the Skies me. And we're not Wrath the Skies right now, but there is Wrath the Skies in the deck. And that's one of the reasons we are running the full energy package within our Jeskai list. So that means Galvanic Discharge, that means Tune the Narrative, and that means Wrath the Skies, because there are so many troublesome cards to run. We have since updated our sideboard to reflect our new changes, running things like Rest in Peace and things like that in the board that we can be able to adjust whether we're running Flage or not, and pivot and go heavier into the Twin package or just heavier into the Control package. We have this flexibility that most decks don't have access to by being kind of a, hey, here's some of the best cards within red, white, and blue that we can go like the American Control, Jeskai Control style, without being as 100% all in. The Invert Polarity counterspell there, whatever it's called, is no longer in my list, but at the time of recording, I was running a singleton, a one-of. I like the idea of having the one-of, especially against players like Amulet and things like that. Oh, you're going to try to cast this Primeval Titan? Well, maybe I'll have that Primeval Titan, but it has become more of a, I'm going to pitch this or throw this in the graveyard and less likely to be able to have it. Now, I'm not running subtleties or things like that, so it's like not even a card that I can pitch. So it has made the cut. I think I've replaced it with a Spell Pierce and just getting a little bit more access to the low drop counter spells that were more beneficial. And you can see the life total is doing a lot of swapping and changing and flicking back and forth. This has kind of also been a reason why I've been waiting to get this video up for everybody to be able to watch. Is part of it is because, you know, I didn't want to sit here and go through it. But there's the Oval Chase Daredevil that's going to be a big problem for the deck because we can just start pitching it. And then whenever you make an artifact or an artifact enters the battlefield, you get to return it to your hand. So it's basically a constant sacrifice type of, or constant discard effect to put more counters on the frog here. And we've got a Pestermite coming in. So again, we do this is the official reveal.
Surprise!
The surprise, it's not just Jeskai control. And most people run Deceiver, so it is that check of like, okay, what is this doing? Basically same thing as Deceiver, but we are on the split between Deceiver and Pestermite. For the evasion is nice. It is a little bit more vulnerable to things, but there's a lot less Orcish Bowmasters running around. So, and a lot of people will bring in specific hate that targets. They'll be like, oh, here's this Pithing Needle or Sorcerer's Spyglass, or, you know, these specific cards that are like, I'm going to name Deceiver, and then they're like, oh, I guess I can't activate my combo. Well, if I just have a couple Pestermites in here, we'll be okay. So it's constantly checking. And basically, we have enough damage that we could deal 6 to the frog. But the frog would live. Potentially. Based on the number of cards in hand. There's, I think, 5 cards in hand for our opponent that we keep tracking and checking. Now, we do have a Tune the Narrative here. So, let's see. 3, 4, 5. We actually do have enough mana that we could kill it off, do a flay. I mean, we're basically going to have to commit 3 cards to kill the frog. Because, well, and even more, right? If there's 5 cards in hand, Oval Chase Daredevil comes back. That's 6 cards in hand, essentially. And there's already 2 toughness. So what we get? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We could do 8 exactly. And right now, which I think would be maybe enough for it. I don't know. It's this debate, right? Of how we spend our resources and what we're spending our mana on. Yeah, there is a little bit of glare here for this episode, just on that corner over by the lands, but this is just jam it. Let's jam it. Also, we've got like counter spells, so we could try to, like, we're starting to get, it's game 1. I always like to play a little bit more conservative against what my opponent is going for, but we decide to actively go for a race here. Like, if we had, there's a Mystic Gate. If we had used that Mystic Gate and had the Hollow Fountain over here, but like by doing this sets us up for, you know, do the race, reset the life totals, maybe have Flage for later on, and then still have counterspell available to us. But this is basically trying to get information about what we're fighting against. What stuff do I need to be worried about or scared about for game 2? Can we drag this out and be able to do the race and get a Flage, you know, fill up our graveyard and get a Flage next time? So then we can just kind of go and we, you know, try to start having a big threat, big scary threat that way. There's the Oval Chase, going to make this bigger. All right, 4 damage coming across. Frog will let us draw. Always have to check because it is triggers, so that, you know, there are lots of anti-triggered stuff. All right, expressive iteration here. Now, again, we're looking to try to find out what our opponent's trying to do, what is the scary stuff that we're worried about, and we opt to fight over the expressive here, which, you know, it gives them a lot of information, a lot of fuel, but this also leaves us vulnerable for the follow-up here, which with a fetch land out, that gives us, you know, indication that is very likely going to be hit with, you know, Orcish Bowmaster, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt types effects to be able to get down and kill off our Pestermite. And there is the Fatal Push that's coming out to get rid of the Pestermite. Now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in the graveyard here. So still have the line to go for the Flage and Galvanic Discharge. I think it's also that holdout of going, well, if we get a Wrath of Skies, we set ourselves up to just wipe the board and we don't have to worry as much.
Or simplified Chinese. That was like 2 years ago, and I'm really tempted to go back through my seller history, find and go, hey, bud, I need my Japanese one. I just noticed it's simplified Chinese. I'd like a refund.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in the graveyard. We could essentially get 5 and 6 here. Probably get a Surveil land. Oh, look at these Wrath of Skies clumped up. Do we need a basic? We're fine with a basic. It's unlikely that our opponent on Grixis Food with a very greedier mana base is going to be running like a Harbinger or Blood Moon type effect, especially in game 1. So we're not really that worried about it, but really just getting that versatility and useful tools available to us to be able to tune the narrative and do things like that. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in hand. So again, Frog is a 3/4. So if we do 3 to it, we'd have to tune the narrative and still deal 5 more damage, 8 total, which is still like not a winning race. All right, and the little bit of draining happening here.
Expressive iteration.
Another expressive coming out.
This one's fine? This one's I don't think I don't know how great the follow-up is, whatever this is going to be.
Expressive's good when you have a low-to-the-ground deck like this that you're... Look at this. A Faithless Looting going into the Exile, so going to be able to cast that here. Draw 2, discard 2. And again, if we get, like, having that Oval Chase that we have been just throwing into the graveyard every turn anyway, like, that's perfectly fine as free fuel to put into the graveyard. And another Expressive and the Oval Chase going in. Still in the tank. I mean, I guess it's like give the Frog flying here, push for damage, draw some more cards. Yeah, there's the... We'll remove these. Frog's going to jump its way on over there for 4. Do we discard anything? I don't know if we have any more Oval Chases, so... Let's tune the narrative. Which gives the information that the Grixis Food player is looking for, saying, oh... You probably don't have a counterspell here because I'm going to Fatal Push Flage. All that work you did to get him out is now useless. Tune the narrative's good, but now we've got a bigger swing coming in with the Frog.
I have no responses to the deck. Take 5.
Taking 5 here, dropping to 8. All right, we could Teferi here and then uptick Wrath of Skies, go that route. Teferi. Oh, this is the misplay here. All right, so we target this. Really, we could just minus and get a free... Like, our goal is to draw a card. It's probably here. But we no longer have a target, so we no longer draw a card. So, could have bounced the... Like, nothing. We could have just gone for the uptick. And because we do have the Wrath of Skies follow-up here, so that way maybe our opponent commits some more resources next turn or something. But this also gives us that opportunity to cast Wrath now and take advantage of there'll be no food to return the Cauldron Familiar. So at least puts a stop to that. But we missed out on a draw, sadly. So we should have drawn an extra card there to help us out. And we did pay an extra one just in case. Gonna go down, do some fetching, dropping down to, or not fetching, doing some shocking, dropping to 5. But this gives us a little bit of flexibility for a Galvanic Discharge, depending on what our opponent might try to follow up with. Like if they go for a frog again, we could try to shoot it.
What's crazy? You got 5 cats in your hand? I don't have 5 cats in my hand. That would be crazy. Because that means I'd have 6. But I can loot cat 5 times.
It says I can loot cat 5 times. Not right now, but it does. It is a line that exists within this deck, and yep, all right. So we're trying to get to the point where we have access to Flage again. So like missing out on that draw hurts, but we have some tools available to us. We have a Deceiver, so we could try to get into a Splinter Twin mode here. Urza Saga is really nice. And Fable's really nice too. So this is our little token, and here is a frog following it up. Let's shoot the frog. Knowing with the flying and stuff like that, it's like it's a tough spot to be in. So we essentially have 4 energy that we could pay into it. You know, this is targeting Psychic Frog, not our Goblin token that makes treasure. All right, we're going to pay 2 energy into it, essentially netting 1, going to 2 energy total. Arena of Glory is going to be good if we can catch it. But again, if we had drawn an extra card, maybe we'd have another tool available to us. But uptick to Fairy. 2 cards in hand. But the Arena of Glory staying in hand is probably better here because we could just follow it up next turn. The Exert doesn't really do anything for us. You know, Arena of Glory is a good card, but not helping us in this situation. I mean, I guess we could have, like, all in one turn, Arena of Glory, Exert, and then Splinter Twin, right? Activate Urza Saga. Making a construct. Giving some Oval Chase back with the artifact ETB triggers, which then we could pitch to our uptick tier or Saga stage level 2 of the Mirror Breaker here. So that makes it real tough. Getting ready to move to combat, and we will do a tapping down of this. And now we're Hellbent. We're hoping to top deck a Splinter Twin here, or a cantrip that we can pitch to the graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards right now. So we need 4 cards in the graveyard. So we're almost able to to bring back our
No cards in hand.
Flades. That's what we're hoping for here. So we need
Like the high.
a Surveil land, we need a Cantrip, we need a Splinter Twin. We've got a lot of live draws here.
No twins have been revealed yet this game.
Oh, so no, there's only 3 cards in the graveyard and Flayed. So we need 2 things to go to the graveyard here. So I guess maybe moving to combat and letting Teferi die is probably beneficial. Maybe not.
Am I dead? You
I'm
didn't
dead. No Splinter Twin. Looks like.
Okay, so game 1 was worth.
I'll fetch down to 9.
Yeah, you
Fetch into 9. Are we going to kill the Deceiver here? Do we got another Fatal Push or something?
and just one of those.
I like the basic land choices. Galaxy, solar system-y ones are super cool.
It's gonna be annoying to edit because of that freaking cat.
I have a couple of those scattered in with my cube that I've got.
Don't tempt me, Nan.
Dang it, I'm gonna have to edit all this. No. That game already ended, so I just moved it.
If you want, I can give you the page.
All right, let's see. Untappies. No Fatal Push there, which is fine. Let's try to
Resolve this one first. Okay.
go through and do some resolving.
Sign to memory both of these is what I'm hearing.
I don't have those main boards anymore.
Urza Saga trigger I'm going to respond to.
Yes. Make a friend.
Urza Saga trigger, make another construct. So these are 2 2/2s. They're about to become 3 3s with whatever artifact we tutor up.
Yes.
2 2/2s become 2 3/3s. There's also the 2/2 goblin that makes a treasure. Lava Spur Boots becomes a problem. Gives us haste. Gives us ward 1.
I got lines on lines.
And yeah, oh, and that +1. I always forget about that +1.
These two are. This is a goblin.
This is an Ursa the Soul Reaper. I'm going to put this one here.
There we go. To help keep track of. Here's the 2 goblins. Here's the goblin token. Here's the constructs.
I'm going to play my land for turn.
You have a land for turn.
I would like to equip Lava Spur Boots to Reflection.
Equip the Lava Spur Boots here, so then we can make another construct.
And haste. And +1/+0.
+1/+0.
So how do we feel about this?
Let's see. You have 3 oval chases and 1 mystery card. Or
I have
two?
3 cards and 3 oval chases.
3 cards in hand, and they're all oval chases.
Like it. So we are gonna kill the key.
You're going to kill it?
Yeah, I think I have to.
Yeah, let's get rid of. We'll hit it with the path.
You get a land.
Yeah. No. Would you like to see what is going to be the one of the sickest things anyone has ever done?
I don't know.
You're at 5.
I'm at 5.
That is a very killable number.
It is.
So,
I know.
hold on. I have to figure out if I'm failing to find here. Okay.
This is are we failing to find off of the path?
I'm going to fetch. Yeah. Down to.
And then we're gonna fetch.
You have no cards in hand?
Hellbent.
Good night.
We're all hell bent. No cards left. Maybe we can survive another turn. But yeah, missing like the misplay on the Teferi not drawing a card has gotten us into a really tough position because that like 1 extra card could have made a big difference. Ooh, a Psychic Frog, which means Lava Spur Boots goes on it,
Okay.
and all those oval chases that we've got. Bam! There's 3 oval chases.
I'm going to pick these 3 up, and then I'm going to dump 3 cards.
Boom, boom, boom. Make a treasure. Do all these things. Good game 1 for the Grixis Food, relying on the Psychic Frog to get there in the end, and why they're rocking out the Grixis version compared to some of like the Jund ones. So if you guys have not yet considered hitting the follows, subscribes, all that good stuff, maybe consider doing it, showing the support for the channel, and appreciate everyone that has been showing your support and love for the channel for the last couple of months, weeks, years, days, however long you've been hanging out with us as we've been going through this little content creation journey here.
I'm playing Urza Saga on a 3-color deck,
That's
man.
true.
I can't play Jones.
All right, so I am a big fan of the land go style to get into the wizard battles. You know, I talk about it all the time. Is like that's my favorite type of Magic to play is when we're battling out and the stack is full of cards and we're trying to resolve things and work through and piece together what's going on and what's happening. So definitely am enjoying that style, and so I have been enjoying the Jeskai Twin list. We'll probably have to do some updating, you know, in the near future about some of my current or other modern decks that are sitting in my quiver. But I do have about 5 or so decks that I keep with me in case anybody wants to learn or play modern. It's like, hey, you want to play? Well, here are the decks that you could be able to play, right? I've got a Burn style deck or a Prowess style deck, which is Prowess Phoenix, that I like to be able to use. It's got a little bit of explosive we featured on the channel before. We've got our Jund list that was Death Shadow a couple weeks ago. It's now Jund Sagas. We also are rocking out with our Jeskai Twin. We've got Izzet Twin. We've got Dimir Mill. And then, of course, you guys have seen my Infect that I like to have as well. But what other deck should we try to... Oh, did I say Dimir Murktide? Frogtide. It's not the Oculus list. I do have that as well in there, but I haven't picked up my Oculuses yet. I don't know. They're a really good card, and they win the game very quickly. Like the Murktide style is a little bit slower, where, you know, you just get an eyeball out early and just kind of profit like very quickly from it. So I will be picking up those cards at some point. I just haven't yet. All right, but getting back to this one, it has been a little bit of that sort of land go, setting ourselves up here. Getting some Surveil lands. And again, I run a lot of Surveil lands in this Jeskai list. More so than anybody has any right to or should. I think I'm up to 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. 4 Surveil lands, which is crazy and not something that I recommend anybody do. 2 is usually like the maximum number of people are willing to do, but because I'm such a land go, I don't really care, and I could get away with doing things like this, it's perfectly fine for the control decks. Missing some lands, though. Steam Vents. All right. Have access to Counterspell. Have access to, looks like a Pestermite as well, end step. We are going to untap this just in case. There is that line of you should tap down the fetch land here, do things like that. Yes, that is definitely forces them to fetch and do stuff. We have Splinter Twin, but we don't want to jam it well. And that's why it's like, you know, if they have it, if we force them to have it, that's awesome, but by untapping it, it kind of gives them the indication that we have a Spell Pierce or something that we're going to try to use.
I've seen both twin creatures, though.
He says, I've seen both twin creatures and no Splinter Twins. Do you actually have them in the deck? Yes, technically they're in here. And I say, I am rushing through what I'm going to do. I'm going to stifle through your search trigger that you're going to be doing, because I cannot actively stop your creation of a thing because it's activated ability. This is not a Tidebinder or nothing like that. But we have Oval Chase coming back. But yeah, consigned memory, counter target, triggered ability, or colorless spell. So we're going to make another construct. We're going to pop it. 2 constructs. They're both 2/2s right now. Swinging 2. 7 cards left. And again, there's always a fetch land, and we saw how much of a pain it is. So we're going to do a little bit of a race. I think that's the other thing. It's like having a little bit more patience.
14.
You were at 15.
I did not
2
mark
to
my
you.
3 points of damage. I'm good 12.
Okay. And now you're going to go to 11 off the fetch.
Well, I was at 15.
You were at 15.
And I took 2 down to 13.
All right, there are life total discrepancies that are getting worked out. Fetching, shocking, trying to figure it out.
My own fetch. I will go to 11.
Okay. There we go. 11 to 15.
I missed
11 to 15 right now. And I know I'm doing my best to try to keep track of it, but I'm going to mix it up and mess it up from time to time. And that's kind of the downside to doing all this editing stuff. Which I'd much rather just sit here and talk to you guys about the awesome game and everything that's going on in this match, but also just in Magic in general. But I got to do all this editing beforehand because it makes it so much easier to watch and view the games when you can see the cards that are popping up, the information that's going on, all that kind of good stuff. So here's our question. We're seeing not official Magic tokens be utilized here. What do you like to use for tokens? Are you on the I'm the infinite token person? I'm going to just draw my tokens every single time. Do you use like other card games? Like I've done the Pokemon cards before as my tokens. I've had One Piece cards as my tokens. Of course, I have the infinite tokens. I even use the official Magic tokens from time to time. Like I'm all about, doing the different cards and tokens and stuff like that, but all right, now we get the confirmation again. Life totals is what they're like. Wait a minute, you had me at less life. Did you? But I had you at less life. Hold on, wait a minute. Now, okay, fetched, and you shocked to 17. Okay. Now we got it. We figured it out. 11 all, supposedly.
We're going to take your life.
That could be the case. Anyway, second main phase. I'm going to cast
Fable the Mirror Breaker. So we could try to respond and tap down, like do a Deceiver here and tap down the Scalding Tarn and just let Deceiver resolve and then just jam a Splinter Twin. But we don't. We play it safe. We're going to just chip away and go for this race here. But yeah, I think that's definitely a line that we're trying to set up for, is to, do a Deceiver, do this little flash. And we've got our double red, so we're okay. The cast twin, we're not worried about not having the like right color sources for that. 2 constructs, though, do make this a little bit of a challenge. Shadow Spear is annoying. That's going to cause a lot of problems. So that's going to, of course, get the consigned to memory. We'll just counter that. All right, so there is 1 black source, 2 red sources, 2 blue sources. We do another Pestermite, and we're going to tap down one of the constructs here. But now we got 2 flyers that we've got. It says, I don't like our race anymore. This is not as fair.
Combat. Yep. Here's 4. Put you to 4. Yep.
All right. Drops our opponent to 4. And yeah, we don't really need to rely on the Splinter Twin. Like, we haven't been put in a position where we have to just jam it and go. Like, it's important to identify these lines. So if you're in these positions again, to be able to go, oh, this is one of the ways that you could do things. Let's respond and tune the narrative. See what they do. Get another cantrip. That's fine. We're good with expressive. See where they go. Because that's a lot of resources they got to commit to it. Putting a land. Putting something in hand. Something at the bottom. Play their land for turn. Another fetch land. Going to move to combat when we will respond with a Deceiver and tap down one of those friends. Swing 2, which will get blocked by the Deceiver. And we go, well, nothing I can do about those And this is you, the twin, and yes, we had the twin. We actually had it that time. All right, going into game 3, tied up 1-1. But yeah, a lot of that kind of super grindy, and that's kind of the way that this deck has worked out. Vexing Bobble to start things out. Now, this is one of those specific cards that players will utilize. It helps out against the free stuff, like whether you're trying to play the Evoke Elementals or you're trying to do, like, you know, Force and try to counter something. And so it says, it doesn't really seem like you're running the Elementals, but I'm running this, you know, just in case. We'll see. Maybe it's a dead card. Worst case, I pop it for 1 and draw a card later on, but maybe it helps against the counter spell. Who knows? But Urza Saga and a cookbook. So, how much does it matter being on the play or the draw? Good question. Big part of it is when you think about as a control deck, your counter spells are a lot less effective going second compared to going first. There's going to be opportunities and times where stuff is going to hit and go through and mess with you before you're able to, like, deal with it, respond, like a frog coming out or things like that. But so now we're just in land go mode, which is great, because you know how much I love this type of matchup. Another Surveil land going to come out here. Utilizing that. There is a fetch, and we could have gone for that instead, but, you know, just kind of sitting and setting ourselves up like this. Fetch an island, make a robot.
He's good, but I'm not killing him.
Make a robot, and we'll kill it with a galvanic discharge to start things out. It says, well, just kidding. While galvanic discharge is on the stack, I have other game actions that I can use, one of which would be you discarding this Faithless Looting to make a food and allowing me to get 3 energy and allowing the robot to stay alive.
I'd like to make a robot.
That's fine. Search is good.
Check to see. Search good. Yep, so we have 2 robots. Go find whatever scary artifact will exist. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These robots are 5/5s, about to be 6/6s. So this game is looking like a really tough position to be in, but active player turn 0. Ghost Vacuum is nice, because knowing that there is the full age options and one of those types of things. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which will turn into a land. Because again, the idea is now that we're both tied up 1-1, the goal is to, well, hopefully win. But worst case scenario, if we go to time and neither player wins, so I am player on turn 1 now. 5 turns that happen. All right, goes back and forth. At the end of turn 5, players who are ahead in life or have the most creatures on board, none of that matters. It just says, hey, end of turn 5. If neither player has won, it is a draw. 1-1-1, and both players earn 1 point for the tournament instead of their 3 or 0 that they would get. Now, if you were ahead and you were sitting in a 1-0 position, like you won game 1 and it went to time in game 2, and you get the draw, you actively win, actually. So here is a Deceiver. Let's tap down the robot. But again, it's all about sort of just the delay. So let's do some fetching. There's a fetch on both sides available, but we're in the delay mode here. Elegant Parlor, maybe potentially getting the hope for the double white that we need to, you know, get a Wrath of Skies or something to wipe the board. 3 cards in hand. Turn 3, we can go for it here or try to wait until turn 5. Surveil. Pitch that land. We don't need it. All right, let's see. Draw another land. We have a counter spell, but it's not the one that we want. It's not a spell pierce or anything like that. It's the Stern Scalding here. So 2 cards in hand, essentially 3 with the option of Vexing Bauble. Let's try to jam it. We had a option, Withering Torment, destroy target creature, and you lose 2 life. That was turn 3. We do have another creature that we could have. So we could have done the wait and tried to jam it on turn 5. That's what he said. You had to kill my construct. It says, yep. But you stopped my combo.
I could have won.
Both players are in that argument of, wait, you could have just, I could have won the game, or I could have won the game. Yes, both players could have won if things had gone a little bit different. Now we're stuck in turn 4. This is the last turn that the Grixis Food player gets. So they've got to try to find a way to deal 18 damage. Doesn't look like we're getting there with this. Again, we could have discarded something with the cookbook and just continued to make food. He says, if I have the highest life total, I win, right? Just like that's another way to check with One Piece. I can gain 3 life. It'll matter, right? No, it doesn't matter. The end of turn 5. All right, let's see. Surveil. Doesn't matter.
You should play this as if the game isn't over this turn. So if you keeping the Pestimite on top would be good for the game continuing, you should keep it on top.
And pass.
I would like to. So for the meme, I can gain 3 life. And say,
For the memes, gain 3 life, just to say that I had more life than you at the end. 16 to 13, but that's it. And there's the draw. And so the said, hey, you should not bring in Stern Scolding, but
it's a Psychic Frog.
Which is pretty scary.
Which is
You won
scary.
with Psychic Frog game 1.
Well,
So I shaved down on counter spells and like this.
so we
stuff
show what
to
we
win
shaved.
games
We
and
shaved
won.
on counter spells going into it for the lower drop ones, which, it only hits Psychic Frog. But again, Psychic Frog is really good and costs us to lose game 1.
cards get in my deck, but it's
And there's Test of Talons. We were talking about this as a card, which I do run
Away
an
all
Infect.
other copies of it. Yeah.
But that was our exciting game. Went to time. Both players ended up with a 1-1-1 record for that 1 point, which some makes the tiebreakers and things a little bit weird, but still very exciting, cool stuff. We got to see 2 unique decks featured here, but we, of course, will have more modern action for you every Monday and Thursday, as well as sprinkling of content on Saturday. So that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next game.